part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Gentlemen across the nation, I have an urgent message for you. This episode is brought to you by Manscaped. The brand that took your balls to space is now launching them into the ultrasphere. Introducing the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, featuring a new cutting-edge design and next-generation dual skin-safe blade heads for different shaves.
It's pretty much a spaceship to take your boys downstairs to the next level. Join the 9 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with the brand new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Just go to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code PRESSPLAY. High tech for low places. Manscaped.
Hey, Gary, are you with me?
Barely.
Oh boy, this could be a really short, exciting, or I could use what's going on to my advantage and really tick you off and get some good reactions.
You could try, but I'm so tired that you could flip me straight from like mildly annoyed, good humored to just royally pissed off real fast.
Guess what? Everyone listening just said a prayer like, let him do it, God.
Dude, I'm so tired.
You're catching us on the tail end of a show weekend. Gary has just run back-to-back shows, literally on his way back home from about an hour and a half, 2 hours away.
On about 4 hours of sleep.
4 hours of sleep. As this is playing, I'm on vacation in Florida, staring at the waves. And for that reason, we are recording twice.
Hope you're not wearing that muumuu that you're wearing right now.
I hope I am wearing it.
In Florida, you'd be a sweaty mess.
Well, I wouldn't wear anything else.
Oh, that's worse. Just fleece and sweaty skin. Just imagine that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awful.
Look like the bottom of a rooster's wing basket.
Like, that's rough. Like wearing thermal socks in the summer.
Yeah, like socks in the shower. You know?
Oh, that's no good. I don't like that at all.
In the
Where are you going with this? Guys, he's laughing so hard at his own joke that he hasn't made yet that he can't even talk.
I want to quote Theo Vaughn, but I don't know.
You shouldn't. You don't. Just keep it inside. This ain't that podcast.
He said, I got to say it. He said he was wetter than a gazoon tight caught in a big girl.
My favorite Theo Vaughn.
No, we're not. Now we rolled the dice. Okay.
My favorite Theo Vaughn-ism ever is when he says "sawed off humans." when he's talking about people who aren't too smart, like some sawed off humans.
Oh boy! All right, this is the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast
For the Sports Collector.
I'm Jason Otero.
I'm Gary LeMaster.
And as always, we are brought to you by the Press Play Podcast
Network.
You are with me, and I appreciate it.
Only because you tapped my arm. If you had not tapped my arm when they said we would have been in dead silence for a 3 count.
All right, let's get rolling with this. I want to jump into some news. It dropped about a week and a half ago as you're listening to this, but I want to talk through the implications of what this means. We have another big buyout / merge, whatever you want to call it, acquisition in the hobby space specifically regarding grading. So, a few weeks back we talked about collectors that owns PSA also acquiring SGC and becoming like, the mega mall for all things grading. But now we have this interesting move between CCG and JSA. And for those of you that don't know, and Gary, help me if what I'm wrong with, but from my understanding, CCG has been, and JSA have both been around for quite some time. They both have a solid reputation. CCG is well known for grading a lot of different collectibles, coins, comics, non-sports stuff. They're big in
paper
Pokemon,
money,
yes.
video games.
Yes.
Anything that's not a sports card, they are the largest grader of, period.
And so if you imagine if you're somebody that's like, mid-30s to 50 years old, everything cool from when you were a kid that gets graded,
They grade.
and they are viewed in the same light. And I don't when it comes to resale value
And market share.
as PSA.
Correct.
So CCG acquires JSA. Now JSA has been known for authenticating and autographs. So it's a good chance that if you have an authenticated jersey or bat or baseball or football, most of the time you're looking at a JSA or a Beckett authentication. There are hundreds of other quote-unquote authenticators. There are a handful of them that have legitimate reputations. There are some of those that are not so much.
Right. And one of the things and I'll touch on this real quick because this is something that I've heard people talking about. JSA, just like any other company that is authenticating an autograph, you are getting their opinion on whether that autograph is real. They are not telling you, yes, this autograph is real. They're saying, in our opinion, this autograph is real. You hear a lot of people throw a lot of shade at autograph authentication services because they'll have gotten the autograph signed themselves. They know that it's real. They were there, and it still doesn't pass cert. There's a reason for that. The reason for that is that a lot of times the auto that you get when you're standing on the fence line or when somebody's walking out of the stadium is sloppy, in a rush. The person signing it just wants to get to their car or get where they're going. They don't care about you. They're trying to be as good to the fans as they can, but they just want to go home. Mm-hmm. And so that autograph looks nothing like the examples that exist. And so these companies are not going to authenticate it. Trevor Lawrence is a great example of that. Trevor Lawrence's certified autographs on cards that are from Fanatics or wherever, he's got one of the nicest signatures you'll see. His IP autos, the T is recognizable, and that's about it.
And then a line.
And they won't certify them. Yeah. Somebody will eventually, and once one person does, then that will go into the database of known signatures, and everyone will. But for those of you who get yourselves up in an uproar about JSA or whoever not authenticating your auto, that's why. Just understand what's happening there. They don't care whether you were there or not. They're not going to put their name on it unless they saw it or it matches a known example.
And if you haven't seen how you did that and almost passed out from running out of breath, but you didn't. If you haven't seen a video of, let's think of an example of, Bowman's one I think a lot of. So they'll lay out sometimes on a table. There'll be a grid of 100 cards all at once, one at a time. As soon as it's signed, they're moving, top left to right and working their way down. And the card is signed and then moved on to the next. Sometimes they get a huge sheet of stickers. Well, in both of those situations, they're sitting at a table with a pen. It's a lot easier to write consistently like that. I can tell you right now, if people were looking for my autograph, they'd find about 10 different versions depending on my level of patience in the moment. So all that to say, JSA is one that's been recognized for quite some time.
James Spence authentication.
Yes. So what does this mean in regards to grading? What does it mean in regards to CCG's involvement in their already encapsulated products and how that puts a dent in the sports space, not just non-sports? And then what does it mean for JSA? What can they do now that they haven't done before? And what does it give them other than a larger audience?
Well, I think the biggest thing is they're going to be first to the market to encapsulate memorabilia. Like right now, PSA and Beckett will both encapsulate up to like an 8x10 photo, but they don't encapsulate balls, really. They don't encapsulate bats. Things like that. I believe my understanding of what's happening here is the plan is for CCG to utilize JSA's technology and teams to do their authentication, because CSG in the sports world, that's CCG's sports division, they do not authenticate autographs currently. They don't have the people in-house to do that. They just grade. So now they're going to have the ability to do that, but they're also going to have the ability to encapsulate things. So you just bought here a few weeks ago a really nice Frank Thomas bat, signed bat. That's something now, and I believe, wasn't it JSA certed?
It's JSA certed.
So that's something that you'll be able to send in along with that cert if you want to get it encapsulated. And they may even start the process, and this isn't something I've heard, but it just makes sense, to grade the condition of the memorabilia as well as authenticate the item. And that will be kind of a first in that space.
Well, so I really, really hope that they do this because it is going to change the memorabilia market.
Correct.
Also, can you imagine these collectors over the years that have been like, yeah, I like cards, but I've always been drawn to Hall of Fame baseball autos. And they've purchased these. Some of them are game balls. Some of them are just at a signing. And they have boxes and boxes full of them. And if they've sold them or they've been trading them, it's just kind of been like raw vintage. Like it's just kind of something where you look at the condition and it's worth what you think it's worth. Well, what if there was a standard for this? It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. It's basically creating a new trading market of a sealed product.
Yeah, and it also creates a situation where it will make it much more difficult to falsify stuff. So, like, if you're not familiar with how autograph authentication services work right now for things that aren't cards, you have a ball or a bat. We'll use your bat as an example that's signed by Frank Thomas. And JSA will take their decal, and it's a hologram decal, and they will put it on the bat. And then you'll get a letter of authenticity with the number that matches that, right? And that's cool, and they did their job. But an unscrupulous person with a little bit of heat and a little bit of patience
and maybe a little bit of Kurt's card.
Yeah, can pluck that
yeah.
that hologram right off of that bat and put it on a fake one.
Mm-hmm.
And then go sell that as real, and then take the one that they already had authenticated and take it right back and get it authenticated again.
Yep.
And rinse and repeat. If it's encapsulated, you're not going to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard, people really talk about the whiting on the ball, the stitching. Baseball is the one I'm probably most familiar with. The football,
well, ink pens bleed real bad.
So now for collectors that say I have 20 autographed Nolan Ryan baseballs, and I have a game ball that's autographed from each team he played for. Well, do you have a 10? Do you have an 8? Is a 5 a big number? Like, what's cool about that is with some of this older memorabilia, like a 5 might be a really high grade. It just brings a whole new dynamic in.
Agreed.
The other thing that could be interesting is what it's going to do with some of the other products out there. So, like, Leaf has some of these jersey products. There's some of these other outlier companies that create memorabilia. You think of some of the mini helmets, they already come with a little case, but what if they had, a way to encapsulate that, with or without a grade? But boy, these athletes are going to be real annoyed.
How so?
I think one of two things. For them, it will be cool because I could see on-site services where people can pay an additional. So, like, let's say you bring in an item. Mm-hmm. Bo Jackson is signing at this, at this memorabilia shop for $100. Get your signature for $150. JSA is on site.
Never going to happen.
Wouldn't that be sweet?
Well, it would be, but you're talking about bringing a 3-ton piece of equipment to every single show that has multiple size dies and everything. That'll never happen. That stuff is like bolted to a floor.
What about baseballs?
Never happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bolted to the floor. You've seen it.
You've never seen a sonic welder?
Gary, you just asked a question that to you seems very logical. But to 99% of people, the sonic welder, no, I've not seen a sonic welder. I can imagine that something that encapsulates a bat is not small.
Right. Something that encapsulates a sports card is roughly 4.5 feet tall and weighs 700 pounds.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of items that you've had signed could get a grade now.
Yes.
But I think it's going to bring into play what's being graded. Are they going to grade the condition of the equipment? So if it's a bat, does the bat get a grade as well? Is it just a grade on the signature? And then could this have a ripple effect on signature grading?
I think it would be a dual grade thing if they're smart about it. You're going to grade just like on a card. I can have a card. Well, I had that Yogi Berra that sold today. Mm-hmm. I had that Yogi Berra. The card was an 8.5. The auto was a 10.
Right.
I think you could see that type of a scenario.
I wonder if it will raise the standard of the auto grade on cards as well down the road. So I have seen some auto 10s where I'm like, how in the world is the autograph a 10 here? It's barely on the sticker, or it's running off on one edge, or there's a little bit of a smudge and it got a 10 on it. But anyway, I think that could be good. Does CCG stay with CSG, or do you think there's a rebrand? Do you think?
Well, no, CCG is Certified Collectibles Group.
Yep, I got it.
CSG is their sports card subsidiary. CGC is their gaming card. CCG is the comics side of things.
Do you see any of that like being streamlined?
No. Those divisions are like, that would be like PSH. That would be as dumb as when Elon Musk changed Twitter to X.
Yeah,
it'd just be asinine. Then there's nobody there with as big of an ego as Elon Musk.
CSG for the average collector is not in high regard.
It's the fourth on the totem pole.
I think people would even argue with that if you had.
Really?
I think there are people
PSA,
are fairly
SGC, BGS, CSG.
okay.
Who's going to be above CSG?
I think once you go past BGS, I think people just grab at whichever other one they've worked with.
I think there's some truth to that, but I also think
or maybe a better way of saying it is people kind of view it as, and then there's the rest of them for the most part.
That may be true, but from a submission standpoint, that's not real life. From a submission standpoint, it's PSA, then CSG, then SGC, then BGS.
Yeah,
on the total number of submissions.
The market does not respond in that way necessarily, but CSG is one that is really known for like prospect cards. FCG is the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, you're thinking of FCG. That's a whole different
That's an
animal.
example of average collector like me thinking, okay, I've got both of these slabs.
The CSG will outsell the FCG by 30%.
30%?
Every single time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
FCG does a good job grading, and most people buy it at raw price, crack it, and send it somewhere else.
Okay. All right. It'll be interesting to see if they are well, I guess it's just PSA now and them, because Beckett's pretty much fallen off.
BGS it's been a 3-year window where any logical person looks at it and goes, somebody up top has intentionally run this company into the ground.
It's crazy. All right. Let's move on. We did not want to move much further into the baseball season without at least having a moment of silence. Can we do that?
You're going to have as many moments of silence today from me as you want.
I can't give you a long one. You'll fall asleep.
Yeah, that's right.
But we are going to take a moment of silence for Yamamoto's start. Okay.
Yeah.
40 how many pitches for 3 outs?
48.
And how many runs?
5.
It was
rough. Now, here's the thing. It was not a great debut. He lasted 1 inning.
Not ideal.
Not ideal. That being said, that entire series was not ideal. Somewhere in the minds of the people at Major League Baseball, they thought it was a great idea to take 2 teams that are in the middle of spring training, send them to Seoul, South Korea, for a 2-game series to open the season, and then bring them back for another week of spring training.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, was it great? Of course it was not great. It was not what you want to see from a guy you just dropped $320 million on, or $360 million, whatever it was. But the circumstances were far, far from ideal.
Speaking of far from ideal, that whole front office has to be like, this is not
what we were signed up for.
Not what we spent all this money for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yamamoto
Yamamoto is going to be fine. If you understand what you're looking at and you've watched him pitch, you know he's going to be fine. But it was not what you wanted to see from a start to the major league career.
Not at all. Let's talk through card shows. So you're coming off of 2 straight days of shows. Last week we had. Did you do 2 last week or 1?
Just 1 last week.
Okay. Are you good? I see you checking the technologies here.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I'm not hearing so great in my headphones, but it's all right. It might just be the fact that my whole upper body is vibrating. I'm so exhausted. So.
There's no life in your eyes.
No.
Like, I could make you angry, but it just wouldn't even be fun.
Probably not. Anyhow, shows.
All right, so we've been running. We're running pretty heavy. Gary runs just about every weekend, 1 or 2 shows.
4 to 6 a month.
Yeah. I am probably 2, maybe 3. 3 would be aggressive for me. And then I do a lot of stuff on Facebook. If you've been following, what I've been trying to do is I've been taking low-end collections, moving them, upgrading to higher value cards, and then
It's worked out for you.
It has been really working out well. 2 weeks in a row of my record highest business at a table. And again, these shows are not big shows. They're 40 tables, 50 tables.
The last week is a 25 table
25
show.
table, yeah.
Don's is like 60.
60? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It was pretty busy in there, but stuff has been flying. So I thought we could just talk through a little bit of the perspective of when you're set up as a dealer, when it comes to moving product, restocking, buying new inventory. What do you do when you're getting cleaned out early in the show and you realize, like, hey, I have a show that's still going on for another 6 hours. I have a show tomorrow, and I have a show next week, and somebody just bought a lot of cards.
Yeah.
Now, I was next to you. This was probably not quite a year ago, but just about, when somebody came and bought $6,000 worth of, and it was 2 3-row boxes.
It was 1 3-row box. My whole price is marked value box. A 2-row that was all one-touched baseball autos, and then my like random value slab box.
Yeah. And that excitement was overwhelming for about 10 minutes, and then I just saw panic in your eyes.
Yep.
So, you know, as I've been doing this as a grind to move more, last week I moved a lot of cards. Somebody came in that you know, when they start to see you there every month for somewhere around that 8 to 12 months, that's what I'm noticing, because it's starting to happen to me. Anybody can pop in and throw up some cards for a few months, but when they start seeing you on a regular basis, they start talking to you a little bit more. And I feel like in the last month, so probably 2 years of popping into shows, a year of really putting an emphasis on it, starting to build relationships with people that buy a lot of stuff, and man, they've been wiping me out right away.
Yep.
I'm pricing fairly, but I'm not giving stuff away. But I have learned that a couple things. One, I'm getting a pretty good eye for a window of cards that, you know, year-wise that works really well for me. So, you know, late 90s through 2010, I've really been able to get an eye for what stuff would move pretty well for me. The problem is when people know that you got that, they're scooping it up right away. And that's not a problem because I'm there to sell stuff, but it feels like a problem. So the first thing I want to talk about is, why does that feel so weird to us? Is it that at our hearts we do this because we're collectors? So when we see cool stuff go, even though that's what we're there for, do you think it messes with us just a little bit?
It doesn't me. I think for me it's that knowledge that now I have to source more stuff. Selling stuff in this business, in my opinion, is the easy part. Sourcing is the difficult part. Sourcing is where the vast majority of the hard work is. Mm-hmm. Selling is time work. Like, you got to go to shows. You're going to be there for 6 to 8 hours. You got to drive. You got to pay for it, all that stuff. But the work is the grind of 15 or 20 hours a week on Facebook, on Instagram, like on Mercari, just like trying to source product at a margin that makes sense. And one of the things I've noticed recently is that we had about an 8-month window, 6 to 8 months, where the foot traffic at shows was way down. And the foot traffic that was there, half of it was there trying to sell stuff, not buy stuff. And so that made sourcing a little bit easier. In the last 3 to 3.5 months, foot traffic has gone back up, not just up, but I think a little bit past where it was even before that. And fewer people are there selling. More people are there buying. Mm-hmm. So now you're not even getting the easy sourcing that just kind of walks up to the table. You tell people what you're paying. They say yes or no. A lot of times when you've got cash in hand, they say yes. Everybody's a keyboard warrior on Facebook. I'd never sell this for that. But when they walk into a show and somebody has $500 in cash in hand for their $700 card, they take it.
And they've already seen 3 cards they're interested in.
Yes,
you know?
they take it. So for me, that's part of it. There are certain cards, like I sold that Yogi Bear today. It made me a little bit sad.
You did?
Yeah.
You bought that one back.
Yes, it's the second time I had that card in a year.
You'll buy it again next year.
No, the guy who bought it is a Yankees super fan. Like, it'll never leave his possession. He loved it as soon as he saw it. But it, like, that to me is where I get the panic from of, Oh, now I got a source.
Yeah. So yesterday at the show, a week ago, I could not believe how much I sold, right? I was like, man, that was a lot of my good stuff, most of my really good stuff. And when you have buyers that are spending some money because they're beefing up for the national or whatever they have going on, or they're guys that kind of come into town and they hit 2-3 card shows in the city in one day, and they're leaving with totes full of good stuff. When they find 2 or 3 cards of yours they like, now they're digging through and just building big piles. And you better think on your feet. You better remember your metrics. So that's what I want to talk about just for a minute. So it's something that, like, in the reselling space that I work in, it's really important that you have defined metrics for what you're buying. What does that mean? A few metrics for me that are important are, 1, sell-through rate. Is this an item that is going to sell quickly, or is this something that's going to be around for a long time?
In other words, how liquid is it?
Yeah, how liquid is it? Another one is, what's my margin going to be on this, right? So there are items where I'm okay with a lower margin. Made a purchase with one of our friends that's a listener. It's a baseball collector, and I'd say at this point he's a friend of ours, right? This is a guy we call Fred. And so he said he had some stuff I might be interested in, and I really liked his approach. He's like, here's what I got. These things I'm at this margin, and then when he got to like some vintage slabs, he was like, hey, these are good cards. If you want them at 80%, go for it. Half of those sold within an hour of buying them at the show because it's the right stuff. You know, it was some, 68 mantle, 69 rows. Like, these things are going to move quickly for you. For me, that's going to meet my metrics. Typically if I'm buying on Facebook, somebody I don't know, I'm shooting 60 to 70% on the lot, and 70% is going to be if I'm getting a lot of stuff from them. But if it doesn't meet that, even if it's super liquid, I have a tough time with it.
Well, one of the things I've noticed for between you and me that's very different, and it's personality based. You are a much nicer person than I am.
Hold on.
What? Why is this funny? Because it's true?
You just now realized.
No. But in the way that it affects the way we buy things.
Right.
So, and I also want to state, I had this conversation with somebody. There's a huge difference. People think kind and nice are synonyms.
Right.
They are not.
Right.
I try to be a very kind person, but a lot of times I'm not a very nice person. So you are the type of person who's nice, and in a perfect world, you don't like revolve your life around it. But in a perfect world, you want other people to like you too.
Yeah.
I don't care if anybody likes me at all.
Yeah.
It has no impact on me whatsoever. So you will sometimes, in that give and take of whether you want somebody to like you, you're developing a relationship, you'll stray a little bit from your ideal numbers in that moment. And then later you're kind of like, oh, shit, I shouldn't have done that.
Right.
I do not, ever. Perfect example, I had a guy walk up to me at a show today, and some people think this is silly. Had a card that he wanted to sell. I was interested in buying it from him, but my margins are very simple. If the card's worth between $10 and $100, I pay 65%, period. The end. Not 65.1, not 61.5.3, not 66, not 68, 65%, period. If that 65% is like 35.50, I will round it up to 36 just to, but that's it. That's all I will do. And this was a card that comped at $55, and the 65% was like $35.75. I rounded it up to 37. Went a little bit more than I wanted to, and the guy was, what about 40? Nope. And he walked away over it, and I let him walk away over it. It's not the $3. It's the 100 times $3 if you let yourself start doing that. And all of a sudden, you're $300 deep into margin that you shouldn't be.
That can happen, but let me tell you something else I notice.
What's that?
There are people that talk to me and walk past your table now.
Yep.
To you, you're very comfortable with that.
Yep.
But let me give you an example of my approach, and sometimes a little bit of honey works better for yesterday. It is true, especially if I'm working on a lot and there's a couple cards where I'm like, I'm going to get that money back pretty quickly. I'll reach a little bit. I do think there's a learning curve for me also of some of the ultra modern stuff, football. It can get, you can really think you have something a little better than you do, and you're having a hard time comping it. And so sometimes the best way for me to learn is I got something that I thought was a $25 card, and it is 10. right? You do that enough, then it's like, let me slow down a little bit here, right? Yesterday I had a guy that I had an Onyx Ellie De La Cruz. It's an on-card auto. It's a non-licensed product. Wanted $100 for it. Okay. He stopped by. He loved it. He loved the card. He was a window shopper for quite a while. He starts talking to me. I'm looking at trades. He's got probably $1 or $2 basketball cards. He does have a green laser Wemby, but he has a Montana on-card auto authenticated by PSA. I think it was at 88 tops. In my opinion, if I can get Joe Montana at margins, that is a safe play for me all day. I want that over a dragon scale, sparkle, unicorn,
absolutely,
whatever, right? He wants a deal a certain way on it. He wanted to trade straight up for the Montana for a $100 card. Now, here's what I know. Licensed Ellie autographs are coming back from PSA left and right now. That card, he could go off and that card could climb. It's more likely that card is going to hold or probably drop a little bit this year. He was really pushing for this trade that didn't make sense. And I said, well, I would only be interested if we can get the Wemby too. I'd be willing to give you a little bit of cash on top of the trade, but that's the only way it makes sense for me. And he went back and forth. He was a little bit passive, but he kept going. He's like, here's the deal. I don't have any cash with me today, which that is what a bold move to go to a card show without any cash and $100 worth of cards or $150 worth of cards. I'm almost impressed. Annoyed as a dealer many times when people do. I'm like, why are you here?
What's the deal?
But he's like, yeah, I just don't know. And so I detached very kindly. I said, hey, you know what? I've been here before, like where I really want a card, but the last thing I want to do is this not to make sense to you. So take a couple laps. If it's still here when you get back, leaving a little bit of doubt for him, because it might not be. It's an Eliotto, right? See if it makes sense then. He comes back. He tries again to not move the victor. Meanwhile, we were swamped all day yesterday. He's like, I just don't know. I said, hey, if you still don't know, just tell you the same thing I told you last time. It's fine, man. You'll still be here, maybe. Go take a lap if it makes sense, look around. And if it doesn't make sense to you, that's okay. I like this Ellie too. So I just keep building the value up, but I'm being very kind with him. He comes back a little bit later, makes a deal that makes sense for me. Is the one I wanted originally, but being harsh to someone like that could have really,
See, but I don't, unless somebody is just blatantly rude, I don't get harsh with anybody. And when I trade, I usually am, at most shows, I'm probably more fair than about anybody with trades because I'll give people full comp value in trade.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I tell you that all the time. I will give you full comps in trade if you want to trade. Here's a cash offer. Here's a trade offer.
Yep. There are different types of dealers for sure when it comes to how they want to have conversations and what they want to spend their time on, right? I'm okay. Like, for me, experience is so valuable right now with this. Learning what works and what doesn't with people. I have my first person that, here's how I know somebody's got money. The go-to. If you've never met them before, one, they're going to come to the show early.
Usually one of
Two,
the first people there.
They always have that luggage that they can sit on.
Yes.
They always have a rolling, and it's got a lot of cash in it, right? So I had my first purchase where somebody came in and they just said, hey, I'd like to put an offer in on your entire prices mark box. And, I've been thinking about this, like, wouldn't that be sweet? And the moment he says it, I'm like, oh, no. Right? Because you know what I haven't done? I haven't added up what's in that box. Most collectors don't always know what's in that box, especially if you're moving stuff from one show to the next, right? Go through that, move a lot of it. I think probably a few months ago, I'd have been more aggressive on my pricing. But I'm looking at this saying, you know what has really worked well for me? Selling cards and buying better cards with that money.
Right.
And so in that case, being a little less like, because I probably would have, the number I wanted would have been about 30% more than I got. But what I was able to buy during the show was way better than what was in my stuff.
Right.
So, but yeah, definitely different personalities in dealing with it. Some of the people that give me a big headache don't bother you either. So
oh, for
that's
sure.
the trade-off
Yep.
with that too. All right. We have many more shows coming up. Is there anything you're trying to target, as your inventory? You've definitely moved through some stuff in the last couple of days.
It's baseball season, man.
Yeah.
So it's full on. There's 4 or 5 guys that I'm buying prospect wise. There's 3 or 4 guys that are early in their career that I think are due for monster breakouts. That's the stuff I'm trying to grab as far as like inventory goes. And then
what's moving for you really well
right now? Surprisingly enough, baseball and football.
Mm-hmm.
Football's moving really strong right now.
Do you feel like football did not slow down like it did last year?
No, it really hasn't.
Yeah, I agree.
And I can't even get CJ Stroud stuff. I had 20 people today at this show ask me if I had CJ Stroud, and I had to tell them all the same thing. No, because I can't buy it at a price that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it just, nobody will sell it for less than comps, and if I buy it for comps, and then I sell it for comps, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to buy it at comps and hold it for 3 months and hope it goes up 10%.
Yeah. What I've noticed is moving is still the stuff from, early 2000s refractors. But I'd say the majority of the stuff, a lot of football was moving for me. The Hall of Fame stuff, the short prints and all that, man, that sure feels like less of a volatile game. I'm leaning more towards that. That Montana authenticated auto would have been something I wouldn't have been as excited about a year ago as somebody that was selling cards.
Right.
And now I'm like, this is a little more fireproof.
Well, I think one of the things that you're also starting to see is that the people who come to shows that are looking for the sparkly, like prism silvers and this and that, they're not the people that have 10 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand in that sit-in thing. Those people are looking for, where's your high-end autos? Where's your Hall of Fame autographs?
Yeah.
Where's that's the stuff they are looking for.
Now, I did make a purchase this week.
Oh, that Merino stuff?
Yeah. There was a Merino collection that came in, some very nice stuff. Probably my favorite card out of that would be the 50th anniversary Bowman Chrome to 50.
It's not the first year Prism color match green that your
that's
friend
nice.
got you?
Yeah, that sure was a nice little icing on the cake there.
Put it in a better top loader. That thing's crappy.
This top loader's been chain smoking for 30 years.
Right?
But so that's been pretty cool. Do you want to talk some prospects?
Yeah, let's talk some prospects.
You're doing great, man. You're like 37 minutes into this thing.
And I'm still awake.
If you've been in an accident and your car needs a little TLC, look no further than Newark Auto Body and Zanesville Auto Body. Safe and reliable collision repairs are their business.
They are a local, family-run, and veteran-owned business serving the Newark, Zanesville, and surrounding areas. And guess what? They work with all insurance providers to make your experience hassle-free. Plus, make sure to ask about their special discounts for U.S. military veterans.
Visit them today at autobodyofnewark.com and autobodyofzanesville.com to get your repair started.
Their iCar Gold Class team of skilled collision repair technicians will make your vehicle just like new again.
All right, so let's jump into prospecting. We're going to do a little bit of a hybrid here of the last 20 in our list.
Or the next 20, not
the next
last
20. The last 20 that you created that we're talking about.
Correct.
In this. Shut up, you grumpy card collecting.
I'm tired.
If you learned anything today, be rude to your clients. All right.
Wow.
But still be kind.
Right. Well, I mean, okay. Go ahead.
Can I ask one thing?
Yeah.
Do you know, what percentage of people that aren't losing money are at below 70% of comps that set up tables? I genuinely
that are
don't.
buying?
Yeah. So your regular dealers that are buying, where are they usually on that? The number I keep hearing makes it really hard for me to believe they're making money. Several that I've talked to, their number is 77.
Nope.
And
they're not making money there.
Yeah.
They're breaking even. They think they're making money because they're putting more money in their pocket at the end of each show than they came with.
Or is that just semantics and they're just not being honest about where they're seeing the comp?
It could be that, and it could be 77% of what their eventual sticker is.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean it's 77% of comps.
Yep.
Like the highest I go is 75%, and that's on big cards.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. Because most of the time, and this isn't prospecting, but back to that, most of the time at a show, if I have a card that's $1,000 and a customer's actually interested in it, I'm in it at $750, usually $7 to $750. They're going to go, well, I mean, if you sold this on eBay for $1,000, you're going to get $850 for it. So would you do like $825? That way you don't have to worry about reporting it on your tax. And I make $75, which if it's something that I want to make $75 on, that's fine. But that's the conversation you end up having on that stuff. So if you're buying it at 77%, do you really want to drop $750 to make $25, $30? Hell no.
Right. Okay, let's jump in. I said we're going to do prospecting. Let's start off with Colton Cowser. What's happened over there with the super loaded Orioles?
They kept him on the roster. Surprised me, because I think the next guy we're going to talk about is the guy I thought they would keep. Cowser was a first-round pick in 2021 out of college, and got a taste last year, got a cup of coffee,
baby.
At
One
the
thing
end of the
you
year
desperately
last year.
need.
Yeah, I do. He was really bad in that cup of coffee, but the skill is there. There's a difference between bad production and being a bad player. Good players will have times where they have bad production, and that was Colton Cowser last year. I was surprised that they kept him and sent the next guy down just because the next guy is a better bat. Cowser's a better baseball player, but the next guy's a better bat. Cowser's a center fielder, though. They're going to think they're going to play him in left, but he's a true center fielder, and him and Cedric Mullins are the same guy. So it was a little surprising. That being said, he's a really good player. His rookie stuff is in 2024 Series 1. His first Bowmans are in 2021 Bowman draft. He's going to be a guy who I think probably settles into the 20 to 25 home run range and is going to hit 275. A lot of similarities to Spencer Steer, just a little bit more dynamic.
Yeah.
He's got more speed. He'll steal more bases.
He's a creative hitter.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed just watching a lot of his highlights was that the camera would lose him a lot because they're all expecting that fly ball to die out, and it just kept carrying. Or some of the places he was hitting the ball, so way up and out of the zone, he didn't really get a swing that you would expect, that the type of exit velo on, and it just carries and carries.
He gets a lot of backspin on the ball,
and
he's also one of those guys that, like you were just saying, you don't. How do I phrase it the right way? He was one of those guys that was never. He was such a good bat to ball guy. Nothing scared him, so he chased a lot in the minors because he could get the barrel to it. And I think that's part of why he struggled when he came up last year. You can't do that against Major League pitching, and it was the first time he had really been challenged since he came out of college.
Yeah, could be the case. All right, he will have. So, do you think he is somebody that's going to be traded soon?
Oh,
we're talking 3 years in.
Now, if they're going to trade a guy, I think they trade Mullins, not him, because they're
if it is the same
Mullins,
thing,
yeah, Mullins is big money, and Cowser's not arbitration eligible for 5 more years.
Yeah. Speaking of that, can we jump off? No, I won't do that. We'll save that for later.
All right.
I'm very interested in the Pirates' play on Skeens, and
yeah, we'll talk about that when we talk about Skeens.
All right, we'll get there, eventually. All right. The hardest name to pronounce.
Heston Kjerstad.
Yeah, it's not what it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like Kjerstad.
Can I buy a vowel? So, how has he fared?
Great, and this is what was so surprising to me. So, if you're not familiar with Heston Kjerstad, number 3 overall pick in 2021. No, in 2020. I'm sorry. He was number 3 overall pick in 2020. And shortly after the draft, discovered he had a heart condition. And he didn't play baseball for 18 months.
Yeah, it was a long time.
So he's older. He's almost 25 now. An amazing, just natural hitter. Just a fantastic natural hitter. Defensively somewhat limited, which is why I'm surprised that he's the guy that the Orioles sent down. Because Cowser's bat is it's a waste to use your DH spot on that bat. It's a good bat. It's not a great bat.
Yeah.
So Kjerstad's a better bat.
He's a technician.
Yeah. So if you're gonna keep one of those guys, and one guy's a better bat, and defensively he's not really gonna play anyway, and you're gonna DH Cowser because that's probably what's gonna happen a lot. Why would you send Kerstead down? It doesn't make a ton of sense to me. But, man, the kid just hits, and he's got some pop, too. Like, legit 30 home run power.
Now's a
legit
good time to
300
invest in
hitter
him then if you think that's there with what's going on with this season. But, yeah, watching him wherever that pitch was is where he knew exactly what he wanted to do with the ball.
Great pitch recognition, too.
Versatility.
Doesn't chase.
Yeah, yep. Very disciplined. I was very impressed with him. Up next, there's a weird thing going on in these mechanics.
Who you got?
DeLauder.
I love him.
Yeah.
You're gonna laugh at my output production ceiling comparison, but go ahead with your analysis first.
You go ahead, and then I'm gonna be a little bit like Salt Bay at the end of this one. I think just
that's fine.
Sprinkling
so
salt off my
in
forearm.
spring training this year, and we're gonna talk about the other guy in a minute. So DeLauder and the other guy we're gonna talk about for the Guardians here in a few minutes. Were the two best players on that team in spring. And I'm not talking by a little bit. I'm talking by orders of magnitude better than anybody else on that roster, including Jose Ramirez, who's a borderline Hall of Fame guy if he puts another 5 good years together. DeLauder's ceiling to me, and again, you may just tell me that I'm an idiot, but I don't think that I am. DeLauder's ceiling is Mike Trout. That's his ceiling. Like, DeLauder is a power, speed, contact guy.
Wow.
He is absolutely capable of hitting 320 with 35 jacks, a K rate of 14 or 15%, and stealing 45 bags. He is absolutely capable of that. His floor is 280-30. Like,
really?
He's that good. I will be absolutely flabbergasted if he's not up by May. The fact that the Guardians are keeping Estevan Florial on the 26-man roster and sending Chase DeLauder to Columbus is a joke.
Why would they do that? Like, what would be the reasoning?
He hasn't played past Double-A.
Okay.
It's the only thing that makes an ounce of sense. That and the Guardians are a team that financially they don't want to start that clock any sooner than they absolutely have to.
Okay.
But man, that kid is great. And he's a great story too, because he played at James Madison. He was a D3 guy. And I mean, his slash line, I don't have it in front of me. I used to know it. I'm too tired to even try to remember it off the top of my head, and I don't want anybody to call me out later and tell me I was a moron. But let's just put it this way.
Hey, what a qualifier.
His slash line, his last year in college before he broke his ankle was almost, it was so freakish you wouldn't believe it if you looked at it. You'd just be like, that's not real. Somebody made a typing error. And then he went to the Cape and did it there. He's a freak show. That's my opinion. I know that there's a lot going on in the swing, but he times it up and he doesn't chase.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong. There's
just a lot
something weird. His arms don't get extended.
No.
Every swing if you watch the slap butt in fast pitch softball, like the finish of the swing, it's almost like there's more there. But
well, you know the drill where you take like a kickball and you put it on your shoulder and you put the bat on the kickball and you don't want the ball to fall off of your shoulder until you're almost through the zone.
Yeah.
He carries that almost all the way through the follow-through.
That's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
And it's not the rotation doesn't have that same extension. Now, here's the good news.
The EVs are sick with that.
Yeah. Which that doesn't seem to make sense, but they are.
They are.
Right?
114s, 115s, yeah.
You know who else really emphasized your swing having that base was Tony Gwynn.
Yeah.
Just the bat knob coming through.
DeLauder has power to go with it. Now, and so that's why I make that Trout comparison. I'm not talking about the swing. I'm not talking about the aesthetics of it. Mm-hmm. But the production level.
Well, and defensively. Some of the plays he's come up with.
Good. Yeah. He's a really good baseball player.
Yeah. All right. Up next, that was a clue.
I'm too tired for your clues. Just
Owen Casey.
Oh, he's one of my favorite prospects in baseball.
He's Canadian, eh?
Yeah. No, he's one of my favorite prospects in baseball.
I like him too.
So Owen Casey was drafted in 2020 by the Padres. And before he ever played an inning of professional baseball, they traded him to the Cubs in the Yu Darvish deal. Owen Casey has some of the most ridiculous raw power that you will see from a 20-year-old kid ever. It is insane.
Some 2 and 3 home run games last season.
And I'm not talking about balls that snuck over the fence. I'm talking about 460.
You'll see him, and the announcer's like, and that one into the pavilion. I don't know if I've ever seen that.
Yeah. And what's really been a really fun progression to watch him. So he started his professional career as a 17-year-old, right? Actually, he might have been drafted before he was 17 because he's 20 now. He doesn't turn 21 till like May, I don't think.
The fact that you know the month of birth is weird.
So early on in his professional career, everybody saw the power, but he was chasing at like a 45% clip. He was striking out at a 40% clip. There was a lot to work on, but when he made contact, it was loud. And over this last 3-year window, it's progressed to the point where now the K rate's sub 30. It's like 26, 27%. He also walks at like a 17% clip. So the eye is there too. His swing and miss is not chasing stuff. It's just, I'm going to try to kill the ball. He's one of the closest things to a true 3 outcome guy you're going to see. Like,
his walk rate was surprisingly
walk,
decent.
homer, strikeout. Like,
about the strikeouts, I don't know that's going to change a lot. The guy's going to strike out a lot. He's going to hit a lot of home runs, but if he's going to get walked a lot too,
but he's also going to hit. He's also going to hit some doubles. Like, he's not a Kyle Schwarber that hits 210.
He's not golfing.
198.
He's not golfing.
No. He's not going to hit 300, but I think he can hit 260 and hit 40 jacks.
Yeah.
And that makes him a better version of Pete Alonso.
Yeah. How tall is he?
6'4"?
Yeah. He's somebody pretty tall.
Yeah. I mean, he's got juice. And he's a fun swing to watch, too. Like, if you're a baseball nerd and you want to see just a fun swing to watch, go watch some Owen Casey clips.
Now, what product did you say he's in?
2020 Bowman Draft.
2020 Draft.
He's in a Padres uniform, so he's not in a
pretty expensive right now?
Not as expensive as you would think. I want to say his base autos are around $100, $120. You can get into some expensive ones if you want to go after some colors, some true colors, but like you can pick up a raw base for between $100 and $150.
Okay. All right. Up next, someone I was very big on the last year when we did this out of Pittsburgh, Tamar Johnson, and it seems like anybody that has seen him hit live is just blown away.
Well, what's crazy with Tamar Johnson, the script on this kid has flipped since the draft. He was drafted and he was touted as having a potential 80 grade hit tool coming out of high school. Like just a pure hit tool guy, and is there going to be power? We're not concerned about bat to ball. He's going to hit 330. Like, it's been the exact opposite. He's a 260 hitter, but he hits 470-foot jacks, and he's a 5'9", 5'10" second baseman who's not defensively limited. He's not going to be great, but he's at least average to slightly above average defensively. He's going to hit enough. Man, as a 20-year-old in spring training this year, he has hit some tanks.
Yeah.
And PNC Park is not an easy place to hit tanks in, and everyone that he has hit this spring would have been out by 40 feet at PNC Park.
Yeah, PNC, you got wind blowing in off the river.
And he was in the Florida State League last year for most of the year, and he hit 22 or 23 jacks in humid, heavy air. If he'd have been in the PCL out west, he might have hit 40. And he just the hit that's, you don't see too many guys where that script flips that hard, where we don't know if there's power, but boy, he's going to just hit enough that it won't matter. Now it's the other way around. Is he going to hit enough to hit 50 is the question now.
Yeah.
Like, that's the question. Not can he hit for power. Is he going to hit enough to hit 50? Right now, the hit tool coming out of high school was everybody saying 70, potentially 80. I think I have him graded at like 45, 55, 45 future, 55, 45 current, 55 future. Hit tool, but power, it's like 60, 70. So he's really good. Second basemen are always a little tough from a hobby standpoint, but he's the Pirates' number 2 overall prospect, and he'll be the number 1 within a few months because Skeens will be up. And
MLB Network was saying this is going to be sacrilegious, but
okay,
when you see him hit live, you're reminded of a kid in Seattle in the late 80s.
No. Stop it right now. If MLB Network is saying that, I want to know who hired the person who wrote that idiocy. There's nothing even remotely similar in the swing. Griffey Jr. is 5 inches taller. Like what are they talking about?
Just saying, hey, it was on TV. It's true.
If I see a guy swing a bat, Ken Griffey Jr., that's about the comparison.
Yeah. All right. You made it.
Did you watch his swing? Termarr Johnson's?
I didn't say it.
Okay, but you said somebody else said it, like semi-seriously.
They did seriously say it.
I know, but you said it as if you kind of semi-seriously took what they said as being real.
What? You're grumpy, dude.
I am grumpy. We didn't talk about Kyle Manzardo, so I am going to say...
we're not talking about him. I'm not going to give it to you.
Guardians sent him down too, which made no sense. He was the other guy who's been fantastic.
Are you done?
I am.
All right.
I'm going to go to bed.
I'm gonna work on being more of a jerk to people at the tables.
I'm not a jerk to anybody at tables.
Guys, I would say I've seen a lot more people shake their head walking away from your table than most of the others.
Stop it.
All right, this has been the Ball Card Show, the Sports Podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
Bye now.
Peace.